Well, I guess that goes back to your original point about how a movement needs to establish that their goal is not to kill the dictator. It's what kind of society they want to get. Because otherwise, if you're just talking about, all right, we got to kill the bad guys, you'll be stuck.
First of all, the reason why we need vision is because the vision is this is going to be the marathon. However large or small, these changes take time. And people power change, the regular people power movement lasts 2.5 years. So some of them lasted longer. Serbian movement lasted for 9 years because we are slow learners. Some of them last for 20 years, completely unsuccessful. Places like Zimbabwe, they keep repeating the mistakes. But in any case, this is not a sprint. So this is not a blitzkrieg, woo, let's bring people on the street, 15 days, goodbye. So because this is going to be the marathon, it's not really only important to know that there is a finish line after 42 kilometers or whatever is the length of the marathon, but also, spreading your strength along the way, planning what you're doing along the way, rewarding yourself for each mile. And, that's only possible if you know where you want to go, as opposed to just running from the lion, which is kind of comparative to the fact, we have this bad guy, we need to do something about it. Ooh, let's go to the street. Also, philosophically, the great book to read is called Rules for Radicals, written by Saul Alinsky. And he really gives you a model of how anger is a powerful mobilizer. And we see millions of people being triggered by the anger. The contemporary horizontal movements are almost mostly exclusively triggered by the anger. The thing is, anger without hope is a very destructive force per se. So we need to cope this mobilization, this angry point, with the point where we see the solution and then connect these two dots with something Alinsky calls small victories. So small, tangible things that we can do along the way. A, to do the checkpoint, we are on the right path, this is our milestone. B, to boost the morale, people burn out. Activism is very demanding. That means you're not living your life, but investing your life into something completely new. People lose it. People get tired. People get fed up. People get burned out. And third, very important thing, the small victories gives you the chance to mobilize more people. So this burden of the activism is spread more equally among the members of the movement.
You also talk a lot about the importance of humor in a movement. I think one of the best examples of why this is important is a story you mentioned in your book about pigs in Serbia. Do you want to kind of tell that story and explain?
No, pigs are in Cuba. Pigs are in Cuba, turkeys are in Serbia. Use of animals is very often in this dilemma actions. Humor. So first of all, how the humor connects to the nonviolent struggle. And almost in any of these cases, even in the most totalitarian society, you have jokes about people in power. But this is not the type of humor I'm looking at. The type of humor we are looking at is more structured, and it's called laughtivism. So what is laughtivism is understanding the power of putting your opponent into dilemma situations. So it doesn't really start with humor, it starts with Gandhi. So when you take a look at Gandhi's Salt March, this is the first historically reported dilemma actions. We did a large research. We found these dilemma actions getting as early as 17th century, but people know Salt March, so we talk about it a lot. So he picked a little thing that relates to everybody. He picked a widely held belief that people have the right to make their own salt if they can. He picked a very sensitive point of British colonialism in India, which is taxing people for salt produced in India, which is really bizarre and really exploiting. And then he says, I'm going to make salt. It also came with a very little risk bar because there was a fine of, 70 pounds and you go 2 weeks in jail if you do that. So it's bearable. So he started this movement. He marched from 15 people to 40,000 people. He was a master of staging this media events. He made salt, but the thing is like the opponent was between the rock and a hard place. If they arrest Gandhi, he walks out in 2 weeks as undoubtful national leader of the movement. So immediately they grant him the charisma of the leadership. If, however, they leave Gandhi make salt, then everybody will start making salt, and that will make a damage on the colonial economy. So putting your opponent in this situation is the beginning. Adding a little bit of humor is where we get the loftivism. So in Serbia, we started with a painting Milosevic on a petrol barrel, putting a little hole in a petrol barrel, putting a baseball bat next to the petrol barrel. Well, it was not a baseball bat, it was just a baton, and then putting it in the main pedestrian district. So what happened is that you could go, it was a street theater type of thing. You can go to the barrel, you put a little coin in, like in a pinball game, then you take the baton and boom, you express your love for Mr. President by hitting the barrel. And of course, it's very loud, so it attracts people. And it's a shopping district, so there is a lot of people. So within 5 minutes, you have maybe 50 people waiting to express their love. And of course, we pulled back to the nearby cafe, ordered espresso, and see what's going to happen. So people were having fun, the kids were around, they were kicking the bat with their little legs, everybody was having fun, but that was not the fun part. The fun part was when police arrived. So the fun part starts with you imagining you're a policeman. So you're trained to deal with the violent oppressors. Now you see this barrel. So you have the order to stop this, but there is nobody to be arrested. So you can't find us. We are nowhere, like people who really put the prank on are not there. You can't arrest the downtown shoppers because when you bring them to the police stations, you charge them with what? He will say, okay, I found this barrel on the street, I hit it, so what's the crime? And of course, they did the most stupid thing. They arrested the barrel. And of course, even then, there were people with cameras, and it was taped. It ended up in a cover page of the Serbian newspaper, and then you turn the police into the punchline because they're actually arresting the barrel with the mutilated president's face. And fast forward to many other places. We are now looking into. I just came back with a friend, Sophia McLennan. It's called Pranksters versus Autocrats, where we recorded 40 of these actions. We are now up to 300 in our research. And you can go to Russia and take a look at the toy protests. You can go to the Belarus. You can take a look at how when people were banned from the streets, immediately the red and white, the color of the revolution, appeared to be the light on a Christmas trees. So now you have a police coming to the neighborhoods and bringing the Christmas lights down from the Christmas trees. So this is really fun. You can go to the potholes. The potholes are the major source of inspiration for activists globally. We have a cluster of 12 different ways people were creative about making potholes a political issue. From making a face of a mayor and a governor in Yekaterinburg, Russia, around the pothole, so the mouth become the pothole. So they hired a street artist. These paintings look really nice. So what happens when you hit the pothole, you curse. This is automatic response. If you drive car, you know. And now we have a person to curse. And, lovely as they are, the Russian authorities came in, they moved the graffiti, but they didn't fix the potholes. So that makes them even more looking silly. And then you can move all the way to the Bulawayo, the second largest city in Zimbabwe, where potholes are the size of the pool. So people were planting trees in the potholes. In fact, you have cases in Brazil where people were releasing fish in the ponds made in the potholes. You go to the cases in the US where people were celebrating the birthdays of the potholes because they're there too long. This is the third birthday of this pothole, so they will come with a birthday cake. So take a look into, if you are a local government, what are your options? Go fix potholes, grant me a victory, or don't fix potholes and be recorded as a mayor in history whose potholes are celebrating birthdays or holding fish or trees or whatever. So now taking a look into this is where the humor really comes with the full power. And humor comes with the three really amazing things. And two of them has nothing to do with social movements and have everything to do with us being humans. First of all, humor is a very powerful attractor. You always want to be around funny people. And this is when you take a look at who is the most likable person you want to be around, it's never the richest or the most educated or the most beautiful. It is somebody who can always make you laugh. And that's the attraction, and attraction makes people join movements. So once again, a lot of people join movements because it's cool, and that increases numbers. Second very important thing, humor breaks fear. You can't be afraid and energized by fun in the same time. And because laughter gives you endorphin, it is actually what people recommend you before you go to the surgery is, having a pranks, having a laugh, look at the comedy, because this relieves this fear, this kind of rigor in which you get by being afraid. And then last but not least importance, putting your opponent between the rock and the hard place very often works, because it's not only the prank, it is the follow-up of the prank. So it's not only toy protests in Russia, it is how Putin really looks when somebody from Kremlin orders a chief of police in a small town to ban the toy protests. So now it's like the reaction of your opponent which becomes the driver and the trigger for the next activity. And the thing is, the people in power are very often very sensitive to mocking. They just live in this crazy world in which they start imagining themselves as a superhuman by being on TV nonstop, being in newspapers nonstop, being on billboards nonstop. And if you poke them a little bit, they're very likely to do something stupid. And then you exploit this in your next prank. I mean, speaking of China Uncensored, Winnie Pooh was censored in China. This is one of the cases in the book, is the fact that after meetings of the Chinese leader, somebody found connection between how he looks and the Winnie Pooh, and people start doing memes. Memes are very often the way to create a dilemma action. Next thing you know, you can't find Winnie Pooh in China. Why? Because they find it offensive. Now, it's not about the memes that were probably seen by tens of thousands of people, and they may have some laugh. It is about the fact that you express this level of paranoia and whatever, how you call this, ridiculous being in love with yourself and saying, no, I don't want to be compared with a Winnie Pooh. That tells a lot about yourself.
Yeah. Can you talk about how memes are a good form of causing dilemma action?
Oh, memes are everywhere. And the one thing with memes is that they spread fast. They are very often made by a common people. So it's not something produced by the movement leadership. Memes happen spontaneously. And very often in an internet world, memes attract a lot of attention, a lot of clicks. They need short attention spans. And wherever you go, especially in the last 5 or 6 years, you have these cases where memes are used to kind of tell a powerful story or send a marvelous message. We have cluster of maybe 20, 30 memes we are looking at from across the globe. And once again, the meme itself is a very limited tactic, limited to a number of the people that see it online. When your opponents start reacting to the meme, it is the reaction that really makes it big. It is not about people seeing the Hunger Games in Thailand and then using this three finger salute as a salute to freedom. It is the government seeing that people are using three finger salute for freedom and then banning the Hunger Games in Thailand. This is when it becomes ridiculous. So it's like there is a little thing that you do, it pokes your opponent, whether this is a meme or this is a gesture, and then the moment they take it from there, they go ballistic, they go with kinetic force over something, and then you figure out that, they ban the cartoon characters, or they ban the pop culture, or they ban this kind of stuff, and this is where everybody starts talking about it. And the funny thing, this is why we call this political jiu-jitsu. So you're not using your own power. You're using the power of your opponent to bring it back against him.